living in States as international student athlete was not a big struggle for me,
Mhm.
but having that day off when you're already done with your homework, you can't you can go to the gym and work out. You already did your recovery sessions, you did mobility, you did stretching, you did everything, and you're thinking, oh man, it's only 1 p.m. and you can't talk with your parents already because it's already night there.
Mhm.
Those Maybe those 7 hours were kind of like when I was thinking what I should do now, or that I want to go home for a while. But me thinking about the goal right away, that okay, I'm here to
Mhm.
get there, to become a professional basketball player in the future.
Welcome to Q's Health and Wellness Podcast, your source for living a healthier lifestyle and developing a better mind, body, and soul. Through guidance, tips, and stories of highly successful fitness gurus, athletes, and individuals who are passionate about enhancing all aspects of life, we provide you with the tools to help you take your lifestyle to another level. And now your host, Quinn Mitchell.
Welcome to Q's Health and Wellness Podcast. This is your host, Quinn Mitchell. Today I have a very special guest. Basi is a basketball, sports, and performance coach and works with professional athletes all around the country and is also coached in 4 different continents. How you doing today, my friend?
Oh, Quinn, I'm good. I'm good. Just ready to keep it rolling. Ready to make it quick and efficient as always.
Yes, sir. So for people that's not familiar with you, would you mind giving a brief introduction about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Basi Prokofyev. I'm originally from Russia. I'm 30. I'm a basketball and sports performance coach. Work with professional basketball players internationally. The thing that you mentioned about the 4 continents, so I can explain that too. I've been working with a player. I was his personal coach, and we would do the off-season training in the U.S. while in season he would play in China. I was with him too. While we were in China, I would do coaching clinics and players camps and clinics in China and also in South Korea. Then, while I was playing professionally in South America, and it was in Ecuador, I did clinics there too. So you can count that as coaching in Ecuador too. So in another continent. And
Gotcha.
then me being originally from Russia,
Mm-hmm.
that's another continent that we can count on. And so
Gotcha.
I'm currently now working with professional basketball players in Russia mostly.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, when all the situation with the COVID-19 will calm down, I'll be able to travel again, just like before. But now it's good to be able to travel through the country, because while the borders were open, I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't spend that much time in Russia, and so I would go abroad always. And now having a chance to see other regions of Russia is just another experience.
Nah, that's awesome, my man. So just my first question for you. So I know that you play basketball as well. So when did you first start playing basketball, fall in love with the game?
So I started playing when I was 12.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from a small town in Russia. The population is close to 200,000 people.
Uh,
And I think within the first month, while I was playing, I already knew that I want to be a professional basketball player.
mm-hmm.
My whole thing, and if you're familiar with my training, you will know that I'm always talking about the goals, what your goal is. And I don't know why, but when I started playing basketball, that was the moment when I figured out that I want to be a professional basketball player no matter what, no matter what everybody will say, no matter if I'm short, no matter if I can't shoot, doesn't matter. I
Mm-hmm.
want to be a professional basketball player, and I'm ready to do whatever it takes. And so
Mm-hmm.
I guess from my early age to now, where I'm not playing no more, but I'm coaching and I'm helping others to reach their goals,
Mm-hmm.
I'm always talking to them about the goals.
Gotcha.
Doesn't matter if that's a goal, just a small goal when we're working on your catch and shoot threes, or if that's a big goal of you trying to make it to EuroLeague or Russian national team or even NBA.
Got you. And speaking about the goals, I know for myself when I was playing, even when my career didn't take off yet when I was in college, before every game I would write down literally things I wanted to do throughout the game. So let's say I want to score 15 points or get 10 rebounds or get a double something like that. I would literally write that on my wall. And when I got back to my room, if I didn't check those things off, I would literally like punish myself. So I would go, so say I'm shooting at 5 o'clock every morning. Now because I didn't accomplish those goals, I had to go shoot at 3:30. So it was just little mind games I would trick on myself. So, and then when I started accomplishing those goals, now I started to feel better about myself, and then my confidence grew throughout my basketball game. It started to rise, and my confidence got better. So I wanted to ask you, how important really is that type of goal setting, whether it's training or whether it's goals for the game?
To me, goals are really important,
Mm-hmm.
but I wouldn't want it to be like, okay, today my goal is to score 15 points.
Mm-hmm.
And what if I don't score? Or what if first half and I'm shooting 1 out of 10?
Mm-hmm.
And the thought that's going to be in my head is, oh man, I only scored 2 points. I need 13 more. So instead of thinking about the results, instead of thinking about how you can help your team win,
Mm-hmm.
you focus in on one small individual statistic.
Mm-hmm.
So here, and that's one thing that I always talk about with the players that I'm working with. Doesn't matter if that's a 15-year-old kid who wants to play professionally, or if that's a 28-year-old professional player who has been playing for a couple of years already.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say if you can think about the process more than the result,
Mm-hmm.
then it won't put that much pressure on you.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, let's take somebody shooting free throw. And if you're at the free throw line and all you're saying to yourself in your mind is, okay, I better not miss, you're already kind of programming your nervous system for something that won't be good.
Mm-hmm.
Now, better part is going to be if you're saying, let's make it, let me make the shot, or I'm making it. You're
Mm-hmm.
already kind of visualizing the result still, but the positive result. That's going to be much better than you're thinking about the negative result.
No,
My
that.
top level here would be if you can focus on the details,
Mm-hmm.
they can make good results. For example, if let's say we're talking about the same free throw shooting, if
Mm-hmm.
I know that if I'm bending forward too much on the free throw shot, then when I'm releasing the ball, I'll be going back with my upper body too much. So the shot will be more energy consuming. And my job is to reduce that bend. So ideally I would want to start with torso vertical,
Mm-hmm.
shoot it with torso vertical.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I can tell myself, okay, keep the torso vertical and focus on that, then there are higher chances that I'll make a shot.
Mm-hmm.
But also I won't be that confused if I miss it,
Mm-hmm.
because you can't control how your body's moving
Mm-hmm.
if your torso is bent forward or if that's vertical, but you can't control if the ball will go in or no. What if, let's say, when I was playing in Mexico, we were playing outside some games, or we would play in the arenas,
Mm-hmm.
but there will be a door, there will be walls, but no roof or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
What if I'm shooting perfectly, but the wind is blowing? Ball won't go in. And
Yep.
so it's not my problem. It's not the problem with my shot. I shoot everything well,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the problem with the outside conditions.
Mm-hmm.
And so here, if I focus on what I can do well,
Mm-hmm.
then the results will come anyway.
Got you. Got
And
you.
so if you're talking about the preparation for the game, I would want it to be less about the numbers,
Mm-hmm.
more about the process where you know what you can do well.
Got you. And that's something I know we were going to save it for later in the podcast, but we might as well talk about it right now.
Yeah.
Is the details that you put into your training, because when I came across your page and when I reached out to you, that's something that sticked out to me personally, being a former college basketball player. I know, like I said, when we were chatting before we even went on the podcast, when I entered growing my senior year, I had to figure out different ways to score. So instead of driving to the basket because I had no explosive power, I could barely move. It was like these little details, like using the jab step and seeing how the defender was playing me and just rising up for a shot. So little things like that, I really had to watch and film and then go practice those things. So how important really is it for players that's training to really pay attention to the details? Because I know that you're specifically one big on details yourself.
Hmm. Details are important, but it's at the point where too many details will be too much.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is one thing about me being a coach. When I just started working with the players, I was always thinking about the details, what can I do here? What can I do there? And so during the workout, a player may have 8 details.
Mm,
but there are plenty of studies that show that your brain can only keep in mind only not more than two details, no more
mm,
than two things, or unless you're a phenomena, you can keep three things in mind. And
mm,
so having 10 details may not be as productive during the workouts,
mm,
but if you can prioritize them, and for example, let's say we're talking about the goal setting and the details, let's say you need to improve four things in your game, and
mm,
it doesn't matter if that's basketball or any other sport. Let's say there are four things. You can prioritize them, which is number one, which is number four,
mm,
and then say, okay, for the next 2 months, I'm focusing on the first two.
mm,
And so first 2 months, you're not worrying about detail number three, detail number four. You're trying to master the first two.
mm,
Then after 2 months go by, let's say detail number one, you feel that you're master of it. Detail
mm,
number two is kind of like, you feel you're getting better at it, but you're not a master yet. Then you can shift your focus to detail number two and three. And so I would say that paying attention to details is important, but prioritizing is more important, where you know that having 10 details won't help you. It may
mm,
shift your mind too much rather than, one goal, you have one goal or two details.
mm.
Goals details can be similar, and you only focusing on them.
Got you, got you. Now that like I said, that's definitely something that I know you as a skills trainer specialized in. So I appreciate you saying that. And just if
And
you
you know what? Sorry for interrupting you. So one thing here also that may be pretty easy for athletes to understand is all of us played NBA 2K
Mhm,
or football, same thing on the video games. And so when you're creating your own player, you have a rating, you have rates, and
mhm,
let's say if I'm working with you, I'll ask, let's say your rates, your average is 60, and everything, all your skills are at 60.
mm,
If we're working for 3 weeks, which skill would you want to improve the most? Like, let's say you have a chance to increase that skill from 60 to 99, and you can only do that with one skill. What would it be?
mm.
Whatever the answer will be for that player, this may be something that he will really want to focus on the most.
Got you, got you. And that's crazy that you even say that, you even bring it to that concept because thinking about that, it's really as a college basketball player, because in the offseason you really have really one major thing to improve on. So when you
Yeah.
go when you go into the following offseason, you think, okay, what was I not able to do? Because I mean, don't get me wrong, everybody's not perfect. So I know there will be times I'll be playing and going into the offseason, and there's numerous things that I know I want to work on, but there's one major thing that I say I have to get better at. And once I started to attack that one major thing coming to that following season, it's like that really embraced myself to have a more confident and more better year for myself, because I only focused on that one major thing rather than tackling 10 things that I can't really perfect, if you let's say.
And it can even be like a conjugated method in strength and conditioning,
Mm-hmm.
where let's say there is a strength part, endurance part, and power part.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say you choose that you're going to improve strength. Then out of 10 workouts, 10 training sessions, let's say six are going to be for strength, and two and two will be for endurance and for power.
Mm-hmm.
It can be the same with basketball too. Let's say you have three goals, but your number one goal is to improve shooting on the catch.
Mm-hmm.
Number two will be shooting off the dribble, and number three will be your passing.
Mm-hmm.
So if shooting on the catch is the top one, then 60% of your time should be on shooting on the catch, and then 20 and 20 will be on shooting off the dribble and passing. And then you can break it down like that.
No, definitely. And it's something that's popped in my head because this is something I had a discussion with another skills trainer. And I just really want your opinion on it. And it's, do you believe the ability to catch and shoot is a skill, or do you think that's something that everybody can do? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
What do you mean a skill or
So,
everybody can do it?
yeah, so meaning that it's if like people that can just catch and shoot, like that's just something that's natural, or is that something that everybody has to like specialize in training?
It can be taught.
Mm-hmm.
It can be taught because you've seen plenty of shooters that were not as good in their first seasons when they were playing professionally,
Mm-hmm.
and then they got better during year 10. You can even look up Jason Kidd's career and his 3-point shooting percentage.
Mm-hmm.
His first year, I don't remember the exact number, but I think it was something from the first to either his 11th or 12th season, it was something from 22 or 23% to 36 or so.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's definitely a skill. The
Mm-hmm.
thing is, to me, every person is individual,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone has his own specifics.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe to become a great catch and shoot person, for you, it will take, let's say, it's going to take 5,000 hours of master work. For me, that I'm not a good shooter and it's just hard for me, it may take 10,000 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So we may get the same results, but I'll need to put more time in. And it's the same in any other skill. We take languages.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you had those people in the class where you're learning Spanish and somebody's like knowing the answer right away. And you or your friend is sitting and thinking like, how the hell he got
Mm-hmm.
there? Like, man, what's wrong with him? How is he doing that? And
Yeah.
so to me, shooting on the cash is the same. It's just another skill that you can master.
Got you. And I just want to transition, if you don't mind, just talking about your playing career a little bit. So were there any challenges that you've seen being a student athlete, like just trying to balance out your timing, or just trying to balance out like having a social life and then still going out with your friends and still putting time in the gym? Like, what was that big challenge for you when you were playing?
Actually, about splitting the time between workout, social life, and school,
Mm-hmm.
there were no challenges, like no challenges at all. Because coming to States, I was on a mission. I knew that it's my transition towards playing professional basketball,
Mm-hmm.
and so when I knew that if I don't do something, if I skip the workout or if I don't go and work extra, then I better not look in the mirror and say, why are you not playing professionally now?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not trying to lose no chances, even if that's 0.00001%. I don't want to lose that because two workouts is going to be 0.00002
Mm-hmm.
and so on. But the problem with me here, and I understood it only later, only after I left college,
Mm-hmm.
was that I was too serious about it. And
Mm-hmm.
so when players on my team would come and ask me like, hey, Basi, do you want to go somewhere? We're going out. Do you want to go with us? Or we're chilling at somebody's house. Do you want to go with us? And I understood that they did it because I was the only international on the team,
Mm-hmm.
and they wanted to kind of like bring me in, show their culture, to make sure we can relate not only on the court, but every time they would ask me that, I would say, "Oh no, I got to work out. Oh no, I'm going to another gym to work out. Oh no." And so I remember their reaction that first and second time they were like, "Oh, okay." Third and fourth time they already felt kind of like awkward asking me again because they were like they thinking maybe I don't want to be friends with them,
Mm-hmm.
where in reality I was just so focused on my mission,
Mm-hmm.
that I was so focused on my goal that it stopped me from building that connection with the players on the court. And so by the time we even play in pickups and practice, some guys that spend a lot of time together outside of school, outside of practices, they know when their friend is cutting, or they can see by their eyes, they have that connection. While with me, it's just more kind of like a robot where you're like, okay, I'm driving towards you, you got to go back door. Okay. Or if I'm having my hand here, you got to go hand off. And so if I could look back and kind of like give one advice to myself or to any other player, American or international, who's going to play in college and wants to play professionally later, definitely try not to skip the workouts, try to give 100%, but also try to find the ways where you can relate and you can build good relationships with your teammates. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're you're partying every Friday and Saturday, but it won't harm if maybe once a month or once every 6 weeks you'll go out with the friends, or you may go out and like everybody, let's say everybody will go out at 8 p.m., you go out with them, but by 10:30 you may go back to your dorm. There's nothing wrong with that, but you should find the ways how you can build that communication within the team.
And you know it's crazy, Basi, that you say that. That's something that I personally struggle with myself. When I was in college, I know for a fact that there were times or even friendships that I had that got affected by me being so goal driven and always working out. Because me, I'm not a party person. I maybe went to 2 clubs my whole life. I never drank before, never smoked before. So I was never around that social life scene. If they wanted to see me, they would see me in the gym. So I can relate to you, and I know exactly what you're talking about, and I know that feeling because people that's always together, they get a feel for each other. But then when you come in, all I know is backdoor cuts, basketball, all the fundamentally things, and then my skill set comes in. But I think that's something that I think a lot of college kids struggle with, especially when they have that goal of trying to get to the next level. Because even when in high school, I know it was I really didn't chill with my friends. It was if it wasn't basketball, if it wasn't trying to get better, I really wasn't interested. So like I said, I know exactly where you're coming from and I can relate to it a lot because being where I'm from, like a lot of people don't make it even to a college level, but for me to get there and I was still had that same mindset, like I really didn't want to talk to anybody if it wasn't basketball. Like if I literally was to a point where girls would be like, you want to go out? I'd be like, no, but you come rebound for me in the gym. Like, it was like that type of thing. So I really didn't care about anything else besides basketball and getting better. So for you to say that story is something I could definitely relate to.
Yep, yep. I guess there are plenty of people who have done that.
Yeah, definitely. So is there like, would you say that there's one big sacrifice that you had to make during your college or professional career?
Not really. I mean, to me, I'm not counting moving away from my family and living on the other continent with 10 or 11-hour difference.
Mm,
I wouldn't count that as sacrifice because this is something that I knew I'll have to do.
mm-hmm.
And I would definitely feel more comfortable if my family was by my side at that time.
Got you, got you.
But
So,
I don't really I don't really look at things that way. So somebody may say it's a sacrifice, but to me it's just an ordinary thing that you need to do in order to achieve your goal.
so did you find that was tough on you mentally, not having your family there during that time?
I think no, because I was already used to it. So
Mm-hmm.
I graduated from high school at 17 and I left my native town. I moved to Moscow to study in university.
Mm-hmm.
And for the first 3.5 years, my grandmom was living there with me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess by then I already kind of got used to where I feel I'm not feeling that lonely or I'm not missing home that much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it would still happen every now and then,
Got you.
but by the time I got to college, I could get through it much easier. The hardest days were Sundays because on Sundays I wouldn't have workouts,
Mm-hmm.
even individual ones, because if I do train on Sunday too, I would get overtrained. And
Got you.
that's actually what happened by the end of my sophomore year in college,
Mm-hmm.
where I got overtrained and I couldn't train for the next, I want to say 6 or 7 weeks.
Wow.
I, one time I do step back and my heart rate just goes like boom, 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 boom.
Really?
So I'm like, okay, that was a good lesson for me too. But mm, living in States as international student athlete was not a big struggle for me,
Mm-hmm.
but having that day off when you're already done with your homework, you can't you can go to the gym and work out. You already did your recovery sessions, you did mobility, you did stretching, you did everything, and you're thinking, oh man, it's only 1 p.m. and you can't talk with your parents already because it's already night there.
Mm-hmm.
Those maybe those 7 hours were kind of like when I was thinking what I should do now or that I want to go home for a while. But me thinking about the goal right away that okay, I'm here
Mm-hmm.
to get there to become a professional basketball player in the future. This was something that would just
Got
make me feel that the sacrifices are not sacrifices. It's just something that has to be done.
Definitely not, and like I said, I appreciate you giving all the advice that you're giving. And I just have a couple more questions for you before I let you go.
Yep.
So, just talking about the mental side of the game. I know that this is not a lot of topics that this is not a topic that a lot of players talk about, because I know for myself mentally when things weren't going my way, it was tough for me. And there was no really outlet for me to go to and really listen to or even
Mhm.
talk about with someone, especially when you're dealing with injuries, or let's say even the point where you overtrain, so you can't train, and then you're in that place where like basketball was my identity. So when I can't do something that I love, it was kind of got to a point where I was in a depressed state, or not depressed, but I really didn't want to be around anybody except being on that floor. So could we just talk about that for a little bit? Like, how was the mental side of the game? How important is it for you when you were playing, and do you even talk about it with your clients that you train?
So if we take college, like I said, number one thing that stopped me from having a good college career was that I couldn't connect with the players on the team. That I
Mm-hmm.
was always about my goal. I was always about the training instead of building relationships with the players.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, I was not ready mentally. So in 2021, no, in 2011. I came to States to train with Tim Grover and then with John Lucas. So I was for 1 month with Tim Grover and for 1 month with John Lucas in Houston. And so I watched the players who were pretty much my age, maybe 1 or 2 years older, who were NBA draft prospects or somebody who was already playing in the NBA. And I was thinking, oh man, they're on another level. Like me here, them like way out here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking, okay, that's what needs to be done for me in order to get at least to half of the places where they went to.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew that I had to do a lot of work. And by the time I got back to Russia, one thing I knew is if basketball wise, I may not have enough knowledge and I'll have to do a lot of extra work when I get to States.
Mm-hmm.
But physically, if I can prepare myself and if I can be the fastest and the strongest person on the team in Russia,
Mm-hmm.
then when I fly to States, I'll still be the same fastest and strongest person on the court.
Mm-hmm.
And so me saying that, meaning mm, I'll still have to, basketball wise, I'll have to adjust to the style of play. But if I'm running fast, if I'm physical, if I'm able to guard 6'8" person in the post on a mismatch,
Mm-hmm.
then it will transfer to basketball game in States anyway, because I'm just running, I'm just pushing someone.
Mm-hmm.
It's just another person whom I'm pushing. And so at that time, I knew that if I can prepare physically as much as I could,
Mm-hmm.
at least half of the job that I had to do, at least half will be done, and another half I'll have to do in States.
Mm-hmm.
But I completely forgot about the mental preparation. I wouldn't even say forgot. I just didn't know about it. I didn't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it all came down from former pros in Russia or older players in my town who would tell me, "Oh, if you're nervous, no worries. It's just it will come with experience."
Mm-hmm.
And so you can imagine that 5 years go by. I'm already not playing college basketball. I'm playing in Belarus top league.
Mm-hmm.
I'm playing professionally, and I'm still getting like nervous like this,
Yeah.
thinking about, okay, I got to score 15. I got to average 15 points in
Mm-hmm.
order to get to the next league. I scored two last game, so that means I have to score 28 today to make sure it's 15 on average.
Yeah.
And so you get on the court, you having all that in mind, and you're like, man. And then, long story short, by the end of my career in Belarus, I think I played on the first half of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And then I left because the team I was not getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
And my average was 0.9 points per game. And so you can imagine you score, let's say you average 1.5 point per game and you played 3 games,
Mm-hmm.
or let's say you played 4 games, game five, and you're still thinking, okay, man, I got to score 15. Okay, so if today I get 25, next week I get 20, then I have, and so it's just a lot of numbers in your head, where
Yeah.
in reality you just have to get on the court and play and enjoy it, because the main reason why you're playing is not because you're enjoying that you're getting paid. The main reason why I started playing basketball was because I simply loved the game.
Mm,
And so mental part was not something that I was aware of because I was still thinking that it will come with experience.
mm,
Where in reality, and now that's how I'm teaching, there is a basketball skills part, basketball tactics part, where you understand the movement and the spacing on the court,
mm,
the physical part, sports performance, and there's mental part.
mm,
And so mental part is just another part of the game that has to be trained. And of course, there are people who, just like we talked about shooting on the catch, there are some people who need to put 5,000 hours and some people who need to put 10,000 hours in
mm,
order to get the same results. The same will be with the mental. And I'm sure you know people who, when you tell that who can score 20 every game, but whenever you ask him, are you nervous or have you done something on your mental preparation? He'll be like, what? Hell no. What is that?
yeah.
And you are someone who's doing plenty of meditation, mental preparation, and only with those results you can get, let's say, 8 points.
Mm,
8 points, and you're really feeling confident and comfortable on the court.
mm,
So, only by the end of my time in Belarus, I understood that mental part was something that I really missed, and that was something that backed me off from having at least good numbers as a backup point guard in college.
mm,
And so now, whenever I'm working with you, doesn't matter if you're 15 or 22,
mm,
unless you're 34,
mm,
or unless you're like 10-year-old veteran who's playing overseas.
mm.
I may not talk to you about the mental preparation because you're already old and you'll say, come on, I'm not believing in this crap.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'll be talking about something else. But if you're a young player, I'll try to add something on the mental training too,
Mm.
just so you can be prepared for it later. And I know I'm talking a lot, but
Nah, but this is
one
good.
quick
Mm,
one quick exercise that every player can do doesn't necessarily mean that it's only for basketball players. So when I was working with the player in China, and besides that, I was doing different clinics. And one of my Chinese assistants, he came to me and he was talking about Allen Iverson doing visualization, where he would imagine what's happening on the court. And we were laughing about it. That, oh man, you know the video where you're talking about practice.
yeah.
So we were laughing about that. And then only I think half a year has gone, and I'm like, man, that's true, because when I was in Mexico right after Belarus, I went to Mexico and I was averaging 22 points per game. And
Mm,
so I'm like, right when I went to Mexico, that was the thing that I was doing. I was visualizing what's going to happen on the court. I
mm,
was visualizing details. And so, if we talk about a player who wants to be efficient on the court, or who doesn't know, or who watches the film and looking at his own mistakes, if you can watch the film, stop at the moment where you didn't like what you did.
mm,
If you can think, okay, what can I do now in order to make this possession much more efficient? What can I do now in order to make sure me touching the ball will bring something,
mm,
will make a good play for our team? Doesn't necessarily mean score or make an assist. Maybe jab step, so the help side defender will come more towards you and you can make much better pass, and then the next person will assist for the shot. And
mm,
so if you can watch the game, stop that moment, close your eyes, and visualize what you're going to do,
mm,
then this is something that may transfer on the court in the future. And you can do that while you're visualizing. If I'm closing the eyes and I'm thinking, I'm like, from the first person view, like I'm seeing it with my own eyes, or you can visualize it from a third person view where you're just behind and you're visualizing what's going to happen.
gotcha.
And also, young players can do, the ones who don't get a lot of playing minutes. Let's say if you're on a bench and your backup point guard and your starting point guard is on the court, to keep you in the game and also forget about you being nervous, you can just not close the eyes, because if you're sitting like that on the bench, the coach will be like, is he
Mm,
sleeping or what's
yeah.
wrong? But if you can keep your eyes open and visualize what the point guard is doing from the first person to you,
Mm-hmm.
then it will keep you in the game, but also it will kind of like give you a different experience because our mind is built that way that um, to our mind it's hard to differentiate whether you imagine something or whether you're doing it.
Mm.
So if you can visualize the things, it can take you to a whole nother level. But it's so boring that not that many players are ready to do it.
It's crazy that you say that, Basi, because I'm just gonna share a quick story myself. Like my junior
Yeah.
year, so basically I sat the first 6, 7 games on the bench. Or like I transferred. So then I was training every day at 5 a.m. shooting with my teammate. Make long story short, the guy, my senior point guard, he had body slammed the kid in practice. He had body slammed the bench in one practice. He got suspended for 4 games, and
Mhm.
throughout the whole season, every time before like you know how you do the national. I'm not sure how to do it in overseas, but in America, like they do the national anthem, and
Mhm.
but before while you warm up, like you get like 15 minutes to warm up, whatever. So the last 5 minutes of every warm up game, every time I'm going to sit down on the bench, I put a towel like I had a Gatorade towel. I'll put that over my head. And I literally used to just think about the game. Like, literally, if I get in the game, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. Mind you, the first 6, 7 games, I sat the bench, right? So the kid got body slammed. I came in the game. I started the next game. I scored 15, and it was okay. It was like one of the worst schools in the conference, whatever. So then the next game, I'm like, okay, I scored 15. It's coming. So the next game, come out, I had 35. But my thing is this, Bozzy, like if I never really put that preparation in beforehand, like the work wise, and then if I
Yep.
never like would visualize myself, like people used to look at me crazy, like they used to come up to me on the bench, like, "Bro, you good?" I'm like, "Yeah, just leave me alone." Like I'm really just trying to get in the zone, like. But I literally used to take that 5 minutes before every game and literally just sit there on the end of the bench and just visualize just me going out there and scoring and just getting best. So the fact that you say this, it's like I literally remember because you can ask any of my teammates. I used to do this and they used to look at me like I was crazy. But it's not that. Like this is something that I just saw Kobe doing before. Like I used to watch him warm up, and then he'd take like 5 minutes and just go sit on the bench and just zone out.
Yep.
So that was something I took in and implemented in my training, and I took it into games. And the fact that you say that, it just everything just comes full circle because it's nothing like you saying that and then me actually having a testimony behind that and they're actually working in real life situations.
Mhm. Yep. Yep.
Definitely.
It's all comes down to that.
Yep. And one.
Because there's always going to be something. There's always going to be one part that is missing. So if you can be the strongest guy in the court, if you can shoot the lights out, but if by the time the ref is blowing the whistle, you're like, oh man, there's a D1 coach coming to watch me. Oh man, what if the coach puts me on the bench? Oh man, there's a girl, I like her. Oh man, what is that? And you're like, and the game hasn't started
Yep.
yet.
No, definitely.
And vice versa.
No,
You
and
know the
definitely.
people who are yeah, sorry. You know
No,
the
no, go
people
ahead, go ahead. I'm listening.
who are weak, the weakest person on the court,
Mm-hmm.
but who's always flexing when he doesn't have nothing. He has no muscle, but he's flexing,
Mm-hmm.
and he's scoring the end one, and you're like, man, where is this coming from? And this is all coming from here.
Yeah, no, definitely. And one of the things I wanted to ask you as well, because I know you play professional, so and I know that a lot of people that listen to this, they are professional athletes. So it's that constant pressure of even being in America and then you going overseas. You have an expectation of that you have to live up to, and if you're not living up to that expectation, sometimes I mean, being overseas, I heard is really brutal over there. So sometimes they send you home. So living with that constant pressure of you going out every time you perform, like you were saying, that sometimes that can get to you mentally. So what would you advise professional athletes or professional basketball players that are dealing with this type of pressure, and sometimes if they go out and have a bad game, to avoid them getting into that slump of having another bad game, what is something that you would advise them to do?
That will be, I think that will be cliche and sound pretty simple, but try to be now, try to focus where your feet are now.
Mm,
So try to think about what you can control right now, because if you're thinking about what happened yesterday, that's already yesterday. You can't change it. And
mm,
same thing, if you can think about what's going to happen tomorrow, this is something that you can't control because that's the future.
mm-hmm,
And so if you can focus on your situation right now, so you're like, okay, tomorrow we have to win. The last game I didn't shoot well. I didn't feel confident enough. Today I have 1 hour to get extra shots up.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go through the shots that I'll get up, that I'll be shooting tomorrow, that I'll probably going to be making tomorrow. Let me go through them
Mm-hmm.
just so I can prepare my mind for it.
Got you.
And so if you can focus on being at the moment, being where you are right now, then you can give your 100% to it. And that's funny because I think 2 days ago I had a conversation with Graham Betchert.
Mm-hmm.
He's the mental performance coach. He worked with Aaron Garden a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one thing that we were talking about. And he was saying, so in our 45-minute conversation, the main thing that I remember is the numbers are a trap. And I can fully agree with that. And you can think of, if you can think of someone who scored 40 or 45, and there were plenty of moments in the NBA that I saw personally where player gets on the bench and they telling him, or his teammates or coach or anybody would tell, oh, you got 50, and the player's like, what? I got 50? Really? I didn't even feel like that. And
Mm-hmm.
so the player was completely focused on what's happening now.
Mm-hmm.
He was not worried about how many points he scored before, how many more he needs to score. And so if you can shift your mind from the past and from the future, and if you can stay right now as long as possible, then there are higher chances that you'll succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And me saying that, it's not where I'm talking about now, and I'm that person who never thinks about the future or who never thinks about the past. Nobody's ideal, but you can always improve here. And so if you can focus on now first for 10 seconds, then 15, then maybe 1 minute, and it's just gonna be it's a marathon. It's a marathon, and so you just have to be ready to embrace it.
So with you, like I said, with you playing in the overseas and you actually averaging 20 like you were, I think a lot of people overlook the importance of being actually in the moment and not really looking outside that. Because even I just want to transition, even just talking about having a killer mentality. When I know
Mhm.
I didn't always have it, I didn't develop it until later in my career when I actually started putting up numbers. But it was never something that I would think about. It was just something that I would be in that moment and doing, and whoever was in front of me was going to get killed in that moment in time. So, how was it for you when you were playing? Like when you went to Mexico and you were averaging 20, was that something that you? Because I know being in that moment is something that's very powerful because not a lot of people can experience that, and the ones that really do know how key that is.
So our season was pretty short, including all the friendly games and tournaments. I think we only played maybe 25 games or so. And just like I told you earlier, I'm not that perfect person who knows how to stay in the moment always now, but it was 4 or 5 years ago. Then it was even worse. And so out of 25 games, I would say that I was at that particular moment maybe only in 5 games. The rest, it was still kind of you trying to figure out how to shift your attention.
Mm,
So it will for sure take time and it will take a lot of practice, but you can even work on it even outside of your sport. It doesn't necessarily have to be in practice. You can work on it even now at home. For example, if me now talking with you, and if I'm thinking, oh, okay, I got a class in 40 minutes, I got this in 2 hours. If I'm thinking about that, then me shifting my focus to right now,
mm,
that's going to be another kind of like another practice.
no.
And so you can train it 24/7. Just depends on how bad you want it. But all the mental preparation part, focusing on now,
Mm,
visualizing, all that is boring. All that, not that many people are ready to do it because you just sit in and you just you just thinking, or
mm,
you closing your eyes and starting to imagine something. But it's definitely useful. And I'll give one example, and I still remember it. That was the first exercise that I did when I was in Mexico.
mm,
So I still remember now. I was living in the mountains, and there were not that many people living near me. And
Mm-hmm.
so, if I open up the window, and if I look in the window, I could see maybe mountains, trees, and maybe two other houses. That's it. And I may hear a dog barking or a rooster, something like that. That's it. And so the exercise in the book, I was reading a sports psychology book from early 90s, and the exercise was you're lying on the floor, you're lying on the bed, or you sitting, you're reading the book. You have to put the book aside, get up, go to your window, look at the window, go back, sit, pick up the book, and repeat all the same, then just by closing your eyes and without going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was the first exercise that I ever did on mental preparation
Mm-hmm.
that I really felt that it was helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time it's, let's say it's a game, I get fouled, it's a timeout, and before I shoot the free throw, uh, during the timeout, whenever I have that 5 second break,
Mm-hmm.
when I'm walking to my bench or the timeout is over and I'm walking to shoot, if I can imagine me standing, picking the ball up, two dribbles, looking at the basket, shooting, then this may be something that can really help to boost my confidence.
Mm. And like I said, I appreciate all the secrets that you're sharing. And I know the time
Yes,
difference.
sir.
You're 10 hours ahead of me. So I just appreciate you even coming on the show and just talking with me. And I don't mean to take up too much of your time. And just the last question I just want to ask you is there any advice that you would give to a professional athlete or just a college hooper or even a high school basketball player that their high school or even their coach wouldn't tell them? Or is there any secret that you would give them?
Mm, I mean, that would be again pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
Figure out what your goals are, set the priorities.
Mm-hmm.
Don't put more than two things at the top of your priorities at
Mm-hmm.
the time. So maybe two priorities every 2 months,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can switch them,
Mm-hmm.
and then practice the visualization and working on that power in the moment.
Got you, got you. And I appreciate everything that you said. And I know before I let you go, I just want you to share that you
Yep.
on Instagram, you even train clients virtually, and even in person. So would you mind just giving out your information and just talking about what you developed over
Yeah, sure.
quarantine?
Yeah, sure. So my Instagram is basi.pro.
Mm-hmm.
And there are plenty of people asking, like, is it pro because you're training the pros? Or it's like pro because that's how your last name starts. So it can be both. So my last name is Prokofyev and Instagram is basi.pro. People can reach out to me if they have any questions as far as training or if there's anything I can help with.
Mm-hmm.
They're definitely more than welcome to reach out. Besides that, I also do virtual training where I'm working with the people who are not with me, whom I'm not able to see daily.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is also an option. We usually talk about the goals, figure out how it can be helpful, and figure out what we can do either on the court, in the weight room, or maybe even on the mental side. But I know we talked through that almost 1 hour. We talked about the mental preparation a lot. Mental preparation is not the number one thing that I do. It's a part of, but
Mm-hmm.
basketball and sports performance training is the main one.
No, definitely. And like I said, I would even love you to have on for part two, just to even talk about the specific skill and going into depth about the skill development side. Because I
Yes,
know
sir.
we didn't really get a chance to talk about that. But also last question I want to ask you, what is it like a typical day like for you? And then do you have any special either morning routines that you go through?
Mm, in season is pretty easy. You only have maybe 4 workouts a day, maybe three, maybe two.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 4 sessions a day, usually in the morning and up until 2 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's one session for me. That's another 2 hours. And then evening time is more for study, for virtual work with the players, for reading, and for my own time with my wife.
Got you. And
But
then
if we're talking about the off season, it's going to be 5:30 a.m. workout, 5:30 a.m. wake up or workout, training sessions all the way until 2, then 1.5 hour break where you get a quick snack or lunch, quick 15-minute nap, get back to the gym. 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. you start again. 9, 10 p.m. you finish dinner, sleep by 11:30, 5:36 wake up, repeat for the next 92 days.
I know that could be a tough like yeah. And then the last question I have for you just before I let you go is, what is something that you're most grateful for?
That's a good question. For my family and for my wife and for her support and the love that she gives me.
That's awesome, man.
And I give back, of course.
Definitely. Like I said, I appreciate you even staying up because I know the time difference. You're over there. It's about 10 hours. So I appreciate you just coming on the show and giving all this great advice. Because being in the basketball community, there's not really, like I said, there's not really an outsource that people could go to and really listen to this type of information. So I'm very grateful for you to come on the show and share everything that you shared today.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, so I definitely look forward to work. I definitely look forward to work with you.
Schedule the number 2.
Oh yeah, definitely, my man. Just shoot me whenever you're free. And like I said, I'd love to have you back on the show and talk some more.
Sounds good.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Q's Health and Wellness Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe or to leave us a review on iTunes or the listening platform of your choice. Also, please check us out at QuinnMitchellII.com, as well as find us on Instagram for more useful content and resources.